Hi, I'm Emily Rose, professional wildlife artist and tutor, and I'm here with this mini-series to help you get drawing. So there are just a multiple of questions that could be holding you back. A lot of them are really small and quite simple to fix, but if you don't give yourself a little bit of time to get them sorted, you could find the drawing process a bit frustrating. So this time we're looking at probably the worst kept secret in the pastel pencil world to help you improve your drawings honestly within a second, which sounds too good to be true, and usually it is, but in this case, I'm not lying. So often you can produce a drawing with pastel pencils and you look at it and you think, it's just not quite right. You look at someone else's and they appear to have got more depth, they've got more detail. The finish is so much better and you couldn't get your materials to behave how they have. You might be watching a tutorial and they appear to be able to get incredible detail that your pencils just can't produce. Now there could be a couple of reasons for this, but the most likely one is you haven't yet discovered Pastelmat. Now I'm not sponsored by any of the materials that I mention in the whole series. This is simply what I like to use. So Pastelmat is a specially formulated board. It's absolutely fantastic and it is a huge game changer for pastel pencil artists. So whereas before you're using traditional pastel paper, it might have a bit of a funny rib texture to it and you have to use fixative between your layers. You can't get that detail, and what happens is the layers appear to start to melt together a little bit, and then it could even start to peel off and crumble, and it's really frustrating because you just can't get a good finish. And at the end you can see the texture of the paper coming through as well. Pastelmat, I always describe it as it's got velvet fingers. If you were to zoom right in on the tooth of the card, which is the grain, then it would have these tiny little velvet fingers and the surface of it is quite soft. And in between these velvet fingers, we can fill up with pastel, so we can add pastel layers. So this is absolutely fantastic. It literally holds onto your pastel as you're drawing. You don't need to use a fixative with it. I've been drawing for several years with Pastelmat, and I've had some paintings that I've taken around with me when I'm touring, and these paintings might have done several hundred miles in the car by now, and they're purposefully just for display for pet portraits, and there's still not any dust at all within the glass. So the mat really does do its job. Now when you search for this, there are a couple of different options just to confuse you. You've got pastel paper, pastel sheets, pastel pads, and pastel board. Now there are actually only two different types. You've got Pastelmat paper and Pastelmat board. So let's start with the paper. The paper can be advertised as sheets, paper, or pads. So the pads is like a sketchbook, and in there you've got, I think usually about 2 sheets of each colour, so they're a really great option for you to find out the different colours. And I'll cover this in another video, but the different colours of Pastelmat will really change your drawings. So it's worth considering and planning out your drawing a little bit before you begin, because the wrong colour of Pastelmat could ruin your drawing or make it very difficult. The paper is great for practicing on. Remember that tooth. The paper has got probably half the amount of tooth that the board has got, which basically just means you get a smoother finish on it and you can't add as many layers. I love to use the paper specifically for drawing flowers and butterflies. Anything with a smooth surface, the paper's really good, and specifically something that doesn't have that many layers to it. So flowers don't have layers and layers of hair, for example. The horse behind me was actually done on Pastelmat paper because I didn't want a hair for hair detail. I wanted that really shiny coat. By using the paper, I can get a grain-free finish to the horse, and well, it's worked out really nicely. If you want to use the board, you'll be looking at creating something more like this, where we've got mammals with loads of fur and we need loads of layers to create that. So these start off with an underpainting, and then I model out the tones, and then beyond that I might add anywhere between 2 and 5 layers of fur. The paper, because it's got a smaller tooth, can't take that many layers, whereas the board just keeps going and going and going, and we can create these amazing drawings that appear to have so much depth to them. So neither of these are fixed. To protect them when you frame them, you just want to make sure you've got at least a double mount. Triple's great, but if you can get a double one, that's absolutely fine as well. And what this does is just keep the pastel nicely away from the glass. If I was to take my hand and run it across the surface, I would smudge them, but not half as much as you would on normal paper. So you've got to be careful when you're drawing, but it's not the same. It's much, much easier. So as I said, this comes in a variety of different colours, and I will be covering that in more detail in another video. But to start with, two good starter colours would be the sand, which is what both of these are drawn on, or the light blue. Tonally, they're about a mid-tone, and then the colours are quite neutral as well. So we get pretty good variation of our pencils across the entire board, whereas, as I'll discuss in another video, you'll find that certain colours of board can actually emit an entire spectrum of your pencils and they don't appear to show up, which can be a bit annoying. So that's where the planning comes in. So if you're a beginner, I would treat yourself to a Pastelmat paper pad. So you've got a couple of different colours to try out. And then once you've had a little play on that, get yourself some of the board. And again, you'll find it, especially for mammals, even easier. This is a real game changer. And as I said, I'm not sponsored by any of this. It's just what I like to use to get the best possible results. So if you want to find out more, subscribe to my channel because I'll be releasing a video on how to get drawing once a week. You can also join the community, and in the community I give people feedback and I answer questions, there's inspiration, and you can see what other people are up to, which is quite nice. And if you just want a well done, that's an amazing drawing because you're so proud of it, that's the place to post it. I know that feeling when you show it to your partner and they're just completely nonplussed. So post it in the community. We would love to see what you're doing. Any questions, or if you think you've found some good materials that you'd like to see reviewed, you can post them in there as well. I look forward to seeing you in there, and until then, happy drawing.